Here we are looking at the leading momentum companies on the ASX, as well as the launchpad ones, where they show up before they become those momentum leaders. Gary Glover's been through both lists, a list that we share on a Thursday afternoon, he gets it, and then members get it at the same time to put through their requests to have us discuss the charts here in this video. So Gary, momentum trading is what we're looking at. When you run through these lists, what is it that's standing out to you in sort of a group or a thematic side of things?
Yeah, the main groups obviously holding up here or popping up is the golds there. Has still obviously been pretty strong here for a while, but definitely seeing a few pops in that sector there. So they're really the only sort of VCPs, maybe a couple of handles that are sort of popping or following through to the upside. I think I've been a few fail patterns here in recent weeks there, but gold seems to be the only one that's But saying that, you're still seeing a few failures in their golds as well. But definitely some of the names have been pretty strong here. So there's been a couple of good setups in that gold area.
Well, maybe if you've got the chart there, you can just put the GRLD up, because that picture tells 1,000 words. That's just such a strong trend, such a strong move. And clearly as momentum traders, that's something we want to be a part of. As you mentioned, there's a lot of disparity within the golds. Before we talk about other themes, just quickly on that, do you look at the strength and the running of a theme like that, and then when you drill down to the individual stocks that we can trade on the ASX, are you kind of concerned for late stage rallies or sort of a bit of divergence between the leaders? What do you look for at this part of a rally?
Yeah, so you got to be aware of exactly that, Chris. Because I think we saw the same thing with a lot of the leaders here recently. We've had a pretty long run here. And then just starting to see a few break down, once you start to see leaders breaking down, you sort of know, look, they still can have that. If they have that sort of fourth wave congestion and they pop out, that can just be the last wave up. So yeah, got to be mindful of that. But you still did some pretty nice moves there. I mean, WAF in the last couple of days, that's a nice little cup and handle. And it's come out the top side here as well. So really wasn't much weakness under the high. Then come through there. So we're seeing that BC8 as well in the last few weeks. That's been on the list for a while here now. There was a nice little VCP, cup and handle under the high there. Broke through a little congestion pattern, kept going here. So, so there's been a couple of good patterns there. Just been a few others there that probably haven't, So I've sort of been looking for which ones are actually showing still pretty robust volumes in there. So there's a couple what I thought were just some of the volumes are a little bit low, not that great. So just, but so just going to be, I think, can still sort of trade these here. We just don't know how far they can run, really. So, but yeah, you're still mindful of that, because obviously this has been running for quite a while. And I guess the other thing in mind too was that spot gold as well, is that I think in the past there was seen a bit of resistance at those key, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 sort of levels in the past. So it is getting up near 3,000 there. So you just got to keep that in mind as well. But look, you can't jump to sort of too much there just because you sort of, you're just going to trade the setups there, I think, just trade some of the better looking setups there.
Well, from a theme perspective, looking beyond gold, is there much else that's standing out to you?
No, it's just a few individual names, so I've definitely been looking at, what's been strong each day this week, just because when the market's really getting, because at XJO, that's pretty aggressive down here the last couple of weeks. So so I've been looking at what stocks are holding up each day. So just interesting to see what stocks are actually going up when the market's getting trouble like this. So, or at least which ones are holding up here and not moving down too much. So yeah, I think it's actually a really good time. I haven't been doing too much trading that personally, Chris, just because there's sort of not too much sort of going on here. But what I'm trying to do now is clean out a lot of my watch lists and kind of almost sort of try and start from scratch again here, because you sort of build up your watch list there. And sometimes you have things sitting in there that you've probably traded before, but they've now maybe, gone up and then maybe continued down here. And so now we should be trying to just put stocks in there that have held up pretty nicely here, that are in a congestion phase, not showing too much weakness there. So most stocks will be pulling back here, a lot of stocks might be showing a little bit of strength there, or might be sort of staying near the highs or just congesting under the highs. So we really want to be building a watch list here now to see who are the strongest names there, because we've pulled back from like 8.6 to 8,000 here now. So now we sort of like the S&P and the Nasdaq have now expanded to went to a new marginal new high, and now we've expanded to a marginal new low. So that's normally what happens in the first quarter, and normally into March, as we know, if they follow the Tuesday reports. So we're sort of in that window now where we should be pretty close to sort of what were some sort of possible setups here. So, we want to be looking at who is holding up, what stocks are holding up the best here. So, because there should be our new leaders should be starting to form them. So, almost, even looking at short-term, Chris, as well, been sort of looking what stocks have rallied in the last 2 weeks. So just what's held up pretty well. So even though some of those stocks could be coming off some deepish lows, but if they're rallying here while the rest of the market's going down, they're showing a bit of strength versus the overall market. So they might have already cleaned themselves out, and now they're starting to build here. So looking for stocks with a bit of an impulsive drive here and a bit of volume behind them as well. And then just looking for stocks that have had a pullback, but not, volume's pretty light, and they've just sort of maybe come back in 3 waves and sitting not too far away from the highs. Because we know that, if you go back in history, and once we've got a market low in place, that the next leader will go to a new high within 2 weeks. So, if we're going to find a low here in the next week or two, 2 weeks later, we want to be looking at who's making 52-week highs.
That's the jump.
Yeah. History says those are the ones that keep powering. So, so it's a really interesting. This is the time to be doing homework. So, people will be getting upset with the market coming off here, but, you should have had sort of stops in place there, and then the setup should be drying up here. So you're building up your cash here. So this is about, this is the most important period of the market right now from a momentum trading perspective, because this is where you're doing the groundwork for the next setups here, because the strongest names should be sort of starting to show themselves here in the last week or two and in the next week or two. And those should be sort of setups there in the next sort of couple of weeks there. That'll be the most important, for the next move up.
I completely agree with that. That's this type of research, this type of momentum trading after a washout is when it performs best. And that's sort of where my edge comes in over the last few years I've been trading. When you talk about those two groups, you talked about those that are either starting to round off and going up as the market's going down.
Yeah.
Or the second tier, which are just compressing under their highs and sort of, well, they might be going down. They're kind of more going sideways.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Launchpad filters through. So that's what we aim to find whether in this report and the coming weeks that you're talking about. So if this is a time where we do homework, this is the most important time for us, and what you and I talk about is identifying those themes in this period, because hopefully the Launchpad gives us an early signal before that next market leader makes that 52-week high. In theory, it should show up in the Launchpad and that theme before we get there. So putting pressure on ourselves.
Yeah. No, well, that's what history tells us, Chris. It's sort of happened. If we go back and look at every low, all the stocks that have come out the strongest there were showing relative strength before, come out low. So they were making high lows, and the market's making lows there, although they're sort of congesting under the high there, or they were already basically sort of rallied prior to that and were sort of just congesting or making a higher low. So, so it's really important to sort of see who's standing up here right now.
And we'll jump into the charts in a second. For anyone who's sort of new or doesn't exactly know what's on Gary's chart there, he's got SGIs he's put up there. The red line is the 50-day moving average. The blue is the 10, the green is the 20, and that's all on the price chart. Down below in the volume bar, he's got the relative performance against the XJO. So see that purple line's going up. If you just type back into XJO for a second, you'll see that goes flat line. And that's because the performance against the XJO is 1-on-1. It's exactly the same. So when Gary's filtering through the charts, keep an eye on that black line in the volume bar, because that shows the relative performance, which is exactly what Gary's just been talking about. So enough aside, enough context to where we sit in the market and why you and I are excited about being quiet on the trading front. And a lot of other momentum traders we've spoken to are reporting the same thing. We'll now go to the momentum leaders. Where did you want to start with the first chart there, Gary?
Yeah, so number 5 there, SGI. I think the other ones are just a bit small there, I thought. So SGI, I just thought it was interesting there, just because it sort of did have that high tight flag there. Because previously, we've come out a few sort of congestion VCP patterns as well here. A few B wave breaks through, I guess a B wave break through here and another B wave break through here again as well. Just had a nice high tight flag in here. So you can see how, this has been pretty strong here. So look, it probably looks a bit, if we go back and look at that, if we're sort of zoomed into this thing here, we'd be thinking here at the time here that this has had a good run. That's probably, looks probably extended on the daily here. But, what we should be seeing, if it's extended there, then we should start to see some selling come in here. So once this runs up in pretty strong volume here, we don't see any selling at all, Chris. So all it does is
Well, I'll say it was definitely on my short list, and I wanted to trade it.
Yeah.
Oil compression under the high, low volume. They're all the things we look for.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
There's a little,
but it didn't gap out, and then when it actually it blew out. It was beyond the risk reward for me, so I just looked at it and couldn't trade it. But
that should sort of give you a measurement move too. So that, how that trades into that move comes there. You're looking for a measured move of that sort of, I think something like, 41.5 to, 59.5 for the that's sort of 16 to sort of 18 cents, something like that. So that gives you a target zone there from that low there. So add sort of, 17 cents there, get you, get you jump around sort of 70 odd cents there from a target perspective, which obviously it definitely shoots out there. So, but again, just looking for those sort of stronger names here. I mean, interesting thing here is, even looking at it now, Chris, as well, we've had a little bit of a, looks like a bit of an exhaustion into that high there. Definitely saw some good volume there, but we should be seeing some selling. If this is exhausted and now looking a bit toppy there, we should start to sort of see some selling here. Still 1, 2, 3, 4 days down here, still not seeing any selling here. So stock's still showing, definitely showing relative strength there. So still pretty strong here. So it'd be nice to sort of see a longer pause in here. But yeah, at this stage they're not showing too much weakness there. Thought this was an interesting one now. I was looking at sort of how there's, because this is a reasonably explosive move here. Definitely sort of came back to the 50 there. Maybe a little deep there, but probably stayed in the top half and then started to emerge there. So, they probably argue a little B wave break in here, but yeah, it wasn't until it's obviously got a bit of a catalyst there and it's shone through there. But interesting is still to watch here really, because again, we're sort of had a good run here. We've had, I think there's only one sort of day of selling in here so far, Chris, as well. So pretty light sell off here so far. So not too much in the conviction on the sell. It'd be nice for it to sort of square off a bit more, but it's definitely been one that's been up and down a bit here. So again, it still looks pretty strong here. Not sort of seeing any aggressive selling there. Just be nicer to see a longer pause there. Just selling those sideways a bit longer there. So, but again, that looking, still in pretty good shape there. So yeah, MP1. I think this is interesting here as well. We've obviously had a pretty good run here, considering the growth sector's under a little bit of pressure there. This one, again, has come off a good low here, but some good volume in that rally. And the whole thing's staying pretty tight here. So it'd be nice for us to use a bit more time. Maybe even come back to that 20. The 20 moving average or something like that. But so far, this is nice and tight here. So again, that's pretty constructive there. Again, if we look weekly there, just probably needs to use up more time. We saw that previously, sort of rally there, you have a few weeks like this, or a little flag here or something, or maybe something a bit longer. I'm not sure we'll see something like this, but it just probably needs to use a bit more time here now. But some really good strong signs there. NHF as well. I mean, this has been pretty robust as well, Chris, so far. So good rally coming off the low, some good volumes in there. Just sort of pulling back here. Not those two down days there, pretty light volume. Bit more volume here now, but still sort of holding tight there. Has gone X in there as well, so overall holding up pretty well. I think OBM has been one of the sort of stronger names here for a while. Bit of a cup and handle in there. It is above the old level. But still pretty strong here. Not if you look through here, they didn't see any aggressive swing coming in here. So I'm straight back up here as well. So it's been interesting to see how it develops there. But yeah, it's just still not seeing any weakness there. Considering how weak the tape is, there's some stocks out there still showing a bit of strength there. VC8, we obviously covered that previously. We had that nice VCP, had the breakout there, a bit of a nice little tight congestion there. Didn't see too much volume in that congestion either. And that's come through there again as well. So
this one reminds me of a chart that you put up, and a question we put out to members throughout the week was, you mentioned before that you were seeing VCPs that were sort of in an ascending triangle or a wedge, where they're having sort of successive higher lows and higher highs. So
yeah.
Would that fit into sort of coming into the end of February and March, that marked little compression or congestion component up near 85? Could that be sort of a third compression and like a rising VCP? And would you look at that?
As in what? As in now, you mean, or as in?
Oh, it's just broken out of it. So sort of getting late February, the third one.
Yeah.
Mid to late January, the second compression, and the first compression early to mid December. And it just keeps getting higher and higher, which is a couple of years ago, you and I talked about that and would be kind of concerned that it was wedging up towards.
Yeah, I think the main thing there is obviously that's the sort of high there, Chris, and it breaks out of the high. Does go through a little bit of congestion there, but see how it held the 10, so it's held probably the strongest moving average as well, and then breaks up there. So we know that, okay, this has held the 10, which is the strongest moving average, so showing real strength. We know that there's the high and there's the low there, so it's actually left spacing between the last high and low there. So when you sort of get that, what they're called bullish spacing, like McLaren's talk about it, because like an overlapping trend is not the strongest trend, but when you sort of sit on top of the other high, that's a robust trend. But when you're an aggressive trend, the pullback stays well above the previous high. So you actually get spacing between there. So that would have told you there's spacing between this here. Like, this is going to get on new high. Still in a very strong position here. So the same pretty nice volume there. That can be a little exhaustive. There's that big volume bar there, but just got to watch and see what it goes here. But, considering how strong this 10's been now, I'd probably be looking at that. I just wouldn't want to see it close below the 10 here, just because it's been pretty strong. Because look at that move here, hugged the 10 until it broke. Even here, hugged the 10 until it broke. So definitely got some history with the 10. So probably just don't want to see it close below the 10-day moving average, that one. So, but still looks pretty good. The last one on there was CHN. So this is an interesting one here, because sort of it had the VCP down here, Chris. I did sort of see this one there, but was only just hanging around the 50 there, but it sort of did break out through there. But again, it's just had the whole thing's tightening up again here. So just be interesting to sort of see whether this can sort of congest and tighten up again. I noticed, I think it might have been Vulcan VL had one of these, a while back here. I think go back maybe 2 years there. But yeah, we sort of had a bit of a loose VCP in here. That was another VCP in here as well. So they still worth watching that CHN, so they can had one little VCP, and it's got a second one building as well here. So they can go back to back VCPs. So so it's a little loose, but maybe this tightens up here. It could be right. But the good thing there is just seeing pretty healthy volume profile into that high, and pulling back, then volumes up again, then pulling back here, and the volumes up again here. So we're actually seeing some good volume come in on the way up here. This is the one that does have a bit of overhead. That's the only negative we are coming off here, but definitely starting to see some big volume through here. So that makes it a bit interesting to me, is actually seeing heightened volume profile there. Getting a bit wild in here, starting to move impulsively as well. So yeah, that's actually not a bad sign there. That's it from the momentum list there. I'm not sure you might get any others there.
There were requests. Let me just scroll down through it. So, saying that, I've flicked that over and pasted it somewhere else. You go into that, and I'll come back on the short list. I've just pasted that list out where. So, on the theme side of things, so in between the momentum and the launchpad, we'll just look at that and try identify where the themes are.
Yeah.
Something that we talked about before, Aaron. I think you were saying, look, you can see gold, and that's no doubt. We looked at that at the start.
Yeah.
It's sort of a mixed bag. You're not really seeing too many strong themes coming out of the launchpad, or what's that you're saying?
We saw there's a couple of names in there. So we saw there's a few golds in there sort of popping out there. But I think they sort of run. Yeah, I think sort of SPR might be one on the list there. A few other gold names on there, but they're probably, I think the golds have sort of already come and gone mostly from the launch pad there. So yeah.
What?
Yeah. I think you're just starting to see some other names starting to emerge there. I just sort of know, like we saw that, I think it was the RFF has had a nice rally there. So there's a couple of things there. We see a nice, really impulsive rally off the lows early. Something a bit impulsive, taking a swing high out and showing some good volume there. That's a sort of sign of short-term strength there. So you need to sort of see it consolidate. And I think CUD number 5 on the list there sort of had pretty loose there, but it has actually broken above the swing high there. So I think it's the first time for about 9 months that's actually broken swing high here. So this is, it's a bit loose at this stage there, but that's a nice volume print there. So just need to see this congestion tighten up as well. So it definitely goes on the radar there. SPR, obviously, we mentioned that's been pretty robust there. RSG was another gold name there. That is still coming off a lower base there. Did see, I think we saw WGX in there. Again, that's another lower one too, Chris, as well. So not showing a bit of a lag out in the industry. So got to be careful about golds popping on the list here this late in the move. So yeah, REA was interesting there. Just I thought this is interesting just because of the undercut there. I noticed a few of these sort of some of those leaders have actually come back, undercut the previous low. So still, sometimes that undercut +3, so looking for 3 days of congestion, and then once you break that high there, can go on there. So it would have been a nice little signal in there. I think there was an undercut of REA. I think actually that even the Spartan was an undercut as well, Chris, as well. If you look at that, it actually undercut that previous low as well. So there's a little, undercut there, held pretty tight. And 1, 2, 3, once we come through the range there, it could go, So a few little undercuts in there, which I thought was interesting. Haven't seen a few of those for a while. BGL, another. This was a bit of a B wave. I didn't think this was too bad here, really. I know there's sort of a little bit of lag over the gold there. I like the fact that it's sort of there's a nice little ABC in there, and then it had like a little sort of, the whole thing tightened up in here like a VCP. So it did give you a little bit of a lower B wave. So it sort of gave you a lower risk entry for me, which I thought this was interesting there, even though it was a bit of a laggard. So I still would be a little bit nervous about it, but I thought that was sort of looked a little better than some of the other sort of setups there. What else we got there? I saw Westpac on the list there, but I thought this is, to be honest, I thought this is a bit of a counter rally here.
Yeah.
To the point where I actually did short that counter move there, because I sort of, sometimes we get an impulsive move like that. Look how aggressive that volume is. And you get a counter move there, slightly lower volume. That volume there almost looked exhaustive, sort of into that little high there. I think there want to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days down here. This is a bit of an inside day, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days back up again. Oftentimes I've seen an impulsive move, this little counter move, and then another impulsive move down here. So I'd expect this to go back at least 30, maybe if not lower there. So I saw quite a few of these banks make that. I thought Liontown was sort of interesting there. That's sort of, it's considering how weak the tape is there and the sector is pretty weak here. This one's actually holding up pretty well. It's just sort of had that little bit of impulsive move, looked a bit corrective in there, but it's just, the whole thing is just sort of tightened up here. It does have a 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern in there. So, just needs to
enough time to get back over the 50-day moving average where it is now.
Yeah, it does need to break this. 69 cents there? That's probably the 69 there so far. I think. So that's probably, if it can break that level there, then maybe this can get going here. So, but yeah, thought that looked okay there. I think NZM was the last on the list there. Again, this is a bit of a VCP, and that's we can look for sort of stocks that, had that rally and then congested there and stayed nice and tight. It's just a little bit not liquid there. I don't think this stock, there was a few setups I saw like this, Chris, but when I looked at the market depth, there was, there's probably like 3 price layers to get set, which I don't, so what I mean by that is, in terms of how many stock that I'd like to buy to get like my minimum setup, I'd have to buy through 3 lines, 3 price intervals to get most filled. So that makes me nervous. It's hard to get in. It's going to be just as hard to get out, if not harder. So that kind of rules out there. They're not liquid enough there. I don't want to sort of trade them there. So I thought that was okay as well. So that was, there was a couple of small ones there I did see. They might have been on the list there previously. That ETM was on the list there a few weeks back. Thought that looked interesting there. I think even EML, again, this maybe, it's had a nice little run to the couple. I think I might have mentioned this. This might have been our very last week, this one. So has gone up to the high here. So it'd be nice to sort of see this round off underneath a low here. So definitely one to watch here. So far, I haven't seen any selling here. So it'd be great to see a little ABC sort of little handle there. But yeah, just a couple of stocks to watch here. But I'll say it's just a great time to be going through the list, see what's holding up here, see which stocks are showing some strength there. And I'd recommend sort of just, if you keep watch lists and then build up over time, I think it's a great time to be sort of start to just, almost encourage. I'd literally just cleaned out, sort of pretty much 80% of mine today and said, no, anything that's sort of like not clear or it's had a pretty deep pullback, you just clear out there. We're only looking for, we really need to look for the strongest here now. They've sort of got to be the top 10 or, 15 stocks here showing real strength there. Those are the ones there we really want to drill in there and try and find the strongest sort of handful of stocks here.
That's, there's one more to get through that wasn't covered in your list so far on the request side of things. But what you're talking about there is why we don't normalize the values. So when we just look at the momentum scores, they can be over 100, or we can have the best performing company on the ASX have a momentum score of 30 or 25, which it's been at terrible times. And there's a lot of information in those numbers that we don't want to normalize out. So a lot of internationals like to use a number that rounds out to a 600, 100. But in times like this, it doesn't give us, it really normalizes out the information to say, well, actually, this is not a great time for momentum traders. This is ranked number 1 and it's a terrible momentum opportunity. That tells me that the market doesn't have many. So it tells me that I should have comfort and be confident sitting on my hands and having limited exposure to the market, which I think you've said and a lot of other traders have said now as well. So when the numbers do blow out, that's when we know we really want to lean in. We want maximum positions. We want to be pushing out beyond sort of 3 times targets. So that's why the momentum scores that you'll see at the moment are sitting lower. But the top one was actually requested, Gary, and that one did have a momentum score of 51, where second place was only 38. So BSX is the top one there. That was one of the requested ones that we just didn't cover at the start. How do you read this chart? Obviously, it's something that you'd rather be long right now than entering a new position, but what do you interpret that trade as now?
Yeah, it's a little small for me. And it sort of had that, you often sort of see that impulsive move and then corrective and then another impulsive move there as well. So yeah, in terms of establishing a position there, pretty hard to here. There wasn't really a tight congestion. I was a little loose in that middle there as well. So, yeah, it's kind of lower probability sort of set up here really. So, for me personally, this, I'd have to sort of congest here and tighten up here. But again, it's probably too small for me. But yeah, I don't know if it's sort of any clearer on the weekly there. Yeah, I guess the interesting there is that chunky volume there. That is pretty interesting. Yeah, so that's actually, you don't get a big move in the market without seeing big volumes coming in. So that's probably the most interesting aspect as well there. So you can probably go back like 10 years there. Is that, see that pretty sizable volume down here. But look at that chunky volume through there. You can see that, that really good solid volume there. Really drove that on there. So that's looking for that sort of chunky volume to come in here. So yeah, that's actually, you look at the weekly there, that definitely makes it look a bit more interesting.
Well, something we'll do right now, just before we end, is some people have asked us for a bit more information on leading thematics, and something we've explored. Gary and I talk a lot about during the week, in between trading as well, in between the interviews, I should say. So if you'd like this section, comment below to let us know, and we'll look to explore more on it. But if you can put up a chart, please, Gary, of SBM, Sierra Victor Mike. This was when Graphite was lighting up the launchpad. And what was happening is this was one of the companies, and there's the other ones like EcoGraph, EGR, and FGR, other ones that have sort of fallen over since. Together, they lit up the launchpad. But what's happened is this has been the only one that continued. The rest have floundered and fallen back. So yes, it's a momentum trade, but the thematic has lost strength. And it's hard to trade graphite in this sense because it's not like there's a futures that discusses, and we can see the price action from day to day, whether it's coal, iron ore, less so with lithium, but even less so with graphite. So it's harder to get a reading of how strong the theme is. And then jumping through, so what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and listeners from about a month ago would remember that tin, zinc, and silver were showing up. And Gary was talking about the inflationary pressures and how that does show out from the 40s and 70s. I guess one that has exposure to those is SMI. And if you put that one on chart, please, Gary, Sierra, Mike, Indigo, you're going to see that it's building that cup and handle. It's a hard read, a hard trade with that big gap up, but it is possible. But the other sisters that have sort of fallen over, and the good thing is that quite often you'll find zinc, tin, and silver together in the ground from where you find the geology side of things. So there are a lot of miners that cross over in those spaces, but they've sort of fallen over as well. But you can watch the tin futures, silver futures, and the zinc futures to sort of get a lead on it from international. But there are, on the ASX, I've got sort of at least a dozen that are sort of sister companies, but they're too small for me to trade, and probably Gary as well, under the 50-cent mark. A lot of those are actually falling over. There aren't many that still stand up. There's probably got two more themes to run through. Quickly, property. That has been taking a bit of a bath lately. If you look at the XPJ, Gary, if you can just type in XPJ, please. That's the property index on the ASX. Yes, it's heavily weighted towards Goodman. Yes, they have data centers now. They're more of a property developer as opposed to a rent collector, which has changed the structure of the index in the last 5 years. But they've sort of fallen over. There's still like CQEs and CQRs that are holding up, but the rest of them have come down. And what we were talking about before and what Gary was saying was, if these companies, forget Goodman that drags this index down, up or down, if those individual constituents are actually able to hold up higher low when the market's edging out a low, that could be exactly what Gary was talking about at the start. We can see those higher lows. That could be something that we can run with. And yeah, you've got the XFJ dropping out there. The real estate developers, the property exposure, they're falling into the same boat. And we talked about gold. Copper isn't really showing much. There's LRV, which is sort of a leader, but not getting much. Debt solutions are tied in with banks, but there are some of the second tiers that are actually showing better because the banks are reporting that they've got lower bad debts, and that filters through. And then we've also got auto companies. So APEG is reported well, but there isn't. Fleetwood jumped with that sort of news, but it's not really a thematic that we can see trading right now, but we are going to watch that coming into this move. The gold leaders Gary's talked about, and they were looking at energy, oil and gas services and housing cycle that have just started coming up in the last few days. So if you like those sort of thematics insights, comment below, let us know, because we've had a fair few different requests on it. And any final words of wisdom or anything to share, research that you'll be delving into on the weekend, Gary?
No, I'm going to read a book actually this weekend. I'm going to read the art of training there by what's his name, Josh Wozniak. So yeah, so it's about so more of that sort of peak performance sort of training there. But it's weird, it was sort of we've been following the channel for a while, Chris. Was sort of we've been in training here now for probably a couple of years. So we're in training for these market pullbacks and looking for the strongest names that are going to come out. So we've got to put our training to use here now. So we've had 2 years of sort of following these sort of strongest names there a bit longer. And we know which ones lead the next sort of bull phase there. So, yeah, the interesting aspect there, which we've sort of seen, is that like a lot of the best setups come weeks, maybe even months after the low. That's the whereas we're all trying to catch the low all the time in markets. Like you see there at Minervini there, oftentimes you mightn't trade for like a month or two after the low's actually in place. That's when often the best sort of setups will actually set up here. So yeah, so no rush here. We're just looking for good setups here. But yeah, I've got my eye on probably a handful of stocks at the moment. That's probably it. I'm hoping that'll grow into maybe 3 handfuls by the next couple of weeks, and then I'll have a real, a bit of a stronger watch list to sort of see what stands up here. But there's only a few standing up here currently. It's probably a little early to be honest as well. I want to see a little bit more. But the interesting there is that XJO, Chris, as well. Like that has expanded to a new high, and now it's expanded to a new low here. So this is sort of talk about that's something which just happens in all those sort of first quarters or fifth years. So it's now sort of in the target range here now. So yeah, but can't just jump in and buy anything here. We sort of got to wait for some sort of A class setups here. But definitely the time to be looking close here. Yeah, it looks like if you're new to momentum trading and you're sort of stuck holding the bag, so to speak, and you've got positions in there that aren't going well, you haven't used stocks and stuff there, you'll find that, one of the, you're probably hoping they'll recover. So, hope's sort of not great in a, amount of markets. They can keep, those things can go down a bit more. But the beauty actually of when you actually, a good momentum trader will always use stops there. The market does turn down, they're completely out. So like if you follow a history of like William O'Neill and Minnie Being and stuff there, they're holding very big positions right now. So what that means is they can focus, on the best setups. Because if you're holding stuff and it's all going the wrong way, then your mental energy is being used up by seeing those things go down and worry about them and then hang on to them. And then, so you stop looking for the best stocks and all you're focused on is hopefully trying to minimize your losses as well. Yeah. So that's the sort of, that's one of the biggest reasons for using stops is that, when you do get these, when they break the 50-day moving averages up like that, that's the William O'Neill thing. You should be generally out of those sort of stocks. And yeah, but then you've got a clean slate. So now we can just sort of, relax and just wait for the best setups. We're just waiting for the best setups there. I was trying to think of what that Minervini phrase there, laying the ground rules or let everyone else lay the ground rules for our success there. But yeah, it's just, these are the right, this is the right time to be, just, be free and a little bit, be watching the market pretty closely because I think we're actually not too far away from some sort of reversal there in the market there, but it's too early to be jumping in here, but we should just be, just going through and identifying the strongest names here. That those are the ones that are going to turn there and show their hand early.
Nice. Well, I'll go to the weekend with your motto to clear house and get ready. And for those who want to keep track of when that getting ready is, we'll send a link to this week's Tuesday video where you covered that in a fair bit of detail, and come back again next Tuesday if you want an update. To that end, thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris. Yep, time to prepare for the next bull phase.
That's it.